Welcome in, everyone, to Girl, How'd You Get That Gig? For my co-host, Celeste Gehring, I'm Amy G, and our next guest not only has a great name, but a great job. She's the Senior Manager of Digital Strategy and Operations at Fox Deportes. Welcome in, Charlene Riofrio.
I love it.
Welcome.
We have Amy and Celeste. I love joining the two of you today. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I can't wait to share my journey to where I currently am.
We cannot wait. Let's start by talking about your role at Fox Deportes as a Senior Manager of Digital Strategy and Operations. What do you do?
What do? I do a little of everything. Here at Fox Deportes, the beauty of working here is we get to do a lot of things even outside of our role. But in a nutshell, I manage all of our social media performance across all digital platforms, ranging from our website to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. I manage all of the brand partnerships with companies such as T-Mobile or Verizon that want to partner up with us on certain campaigns ranging from baseball to soccer. And it's always finding that creative way to integrate them into our content without it appearing as a ad.
Forced.
Want it to appear natural.
Yeah.
And aside from that, just working with our content team whenever there's opportunities to go on site to cover any specific game for social media, I support with that as well. But the main objective with my role is to bring revenue to the company, and I do that through the brand partnerships.
Bring revenue to the country, or to the company. And the country.
And the country.
She's a moneymaker.
She's a
moneymaker. Yeah. Okay. So we always this is a very transparent podcast, and we want people to see the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, whatever you're willing to share. And so we always ask our guest, Charlene, what do you like most about your job? And what do you like least about your job that you're able to share?
What do I love? What I love about my job is I love the culture. Being Hispanic, I feel like I come from two different worlds that I'm able to blend in naturally. I come from the Hispanic world, being able to speak Spanish and just understand that culture and that audience that's bilingual. But I also come from another world where I don't necessarily have to identify as being Hispanic. I'm just a female that works in sports who has awesome female colleagues that are there to empower me and support me with a team that is primarily dominated by men. So I have the best of those two worlds that I love at Fox. I feel like I have a lot of support from those two different sides. And what I least like, that's kind of hard. Least, I guess not really like. I guess maybe it's more of a challenge that I'm trying to overcome, is just trying to overcome that obstacle of growing in the corporate ladder. It may not come as quickly as it may have come for others, and it's something that I'm just trying to work towards achieving someday.
Okay. Well, let's start with the thing, that you love to do first. And Amy, I worked with her a couple of years ago through Bally. She was at the Tennis Channel at the time, and we were doing an event together. Bally's borrowed her to help with our social media for a Takis, the Army Bowl game. And the one thing that I loved about you, Charlene, is, you made sure you got the right pictures, you talked to people, you communicated. I have not seen a person that works in social, for a network, really, you're one of the few that can go in there and communicate to people, let people know what's going on, kind of rearrange people, but you make it look so easy. Does it come easy to you?
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. I guess it comes just from the passion of sports and knowing the content that people want to see on their mobile phone or on their computer. I think it needs to be catered to that sort of audience. It can't just take a picture and hope for the best. You want to make sure you capture something that's ultimately going to become viral. That's always kind of the mission that we have as creators.
Which is very difficult to keep up with all the trends and all that. And we'll get into that, but I want to go back because Celeste and I we just think being a twin is really cool. So we want to go back to that.
That's so cool.
We're back to when you were born. And we just want to start because I do think too, like anybody who has a sibling, but then when you have a twin, that changes how you do communicate. And what Celeste is talking about, like how well you communicate and learning how to communicate and learning people, like twins have this like different kind of transmission and ability to communicate with each other. And I always wonder if that translates into the world with folks they don't know. So just in general, what has being a twin been like for you?
I feel like it's taught me to be very empathetic and to understand people just through their facial expression. Sometimes people are so quick to react and communicate just based on what's said, but it's taught me to communicate in my workspace just by observing, not necessarily having to hear something. And I've done that with my sister. Like we've taken classes, obviously our entire career up until college, and we would just stare at each other and we already knew what we were trying to say, but we didn't have to say it. And I remember one day in class just looking behind me and looking at her, and then we just started laughing, and then people were like, "What?" So we just know. And I feel like I try to take that into my workspace. And if I have a good relationship with someone and I see something, I pay attention to that because that says more than verbal communication.
Yeah, you guys have like twins have an intuition that is innate. It's really, really fascinating.
It is.
Thank
And
you.
your twin Jennifer, when you both were growing up, did Jennifer love sports as much as you? Do you both love sports? And if so, where did that love of sports come from?
Mhm.
I would say I love sports more than my sister. I do have to just candidly say I sometimes have to drag her to some of the events, like college football USC games. She is an honorary Trojan, thanks to me. But yes, I love sports more than my sister. I got it from my dad and from my brother. Growing up in a Latino sort of background, like soccer was always in our living room.
Mhm.
So my twin sister and I played soccer in high school together throughout our entire high school career. And aside from that, like I just grew up with Kobe. Basketball was always in
Mhm.
my home because of my brother. And I just learned a lot, just like sitting watching games with my brother and my dad. They taught me a lot. And then just traveling to South America and going to games there and learning from my cousins and my family, it just started my career in sports. And that was actually a tennis channel. That was my first job was at Tennis Channel as an associate producer on this show that no longer exists, Destination Tennis,
Ooh,
where you would travel all over the world and cover tennis spots,
how
ranging from
cool.
like the Bahamas to France. So that was very
Oh,
cool. But this was a long time ago.
Too bad. It's too bad that show canceled. I would want
yeah.
to work on that show. You know what's interesting, Charlene, what you said about playing soccer with your sister, because I played sports with girls. I recently hung up my cleats in soccer, but well, I'm 50. I probably played with some of these girls for 43 years, like from our first team to adults playing indoor soccer, right? We played in all growing up, and then I stopped playing to play other sports, and I picked it back up when I was old. Where I'm going with this is the intuition you have as an athlete on the field. And the longer you play with the certain group of teammates, the more you're able to read each other, whether it's that look or you just know where that person's going to be. And it certainly came in handy the older we got, where the less mobile our bodies were, but our brains were so in sync that I knew where Nomi was going to be, or I knew where Carrie was going to be. And you could just like kind of lead them. Did you feel that you had an advantage in soccer having that with your sister already kind of in place?
Yes, I think definitely like we knew we were always training together, and there were times where sometimes we were like, "Oh, can we train with someone else? We're always together." But yeah,
Right.
we knew what our strengths and our weaknesses were when we were playing, and we always tried like we knew like if my sister needed help with like defending the ball and making sure It wasn't going to go in. Like we were there to help each other. We had different positions, obviously, but we were there to help one another. And it wasn't just me helping her, it was me helping the rest of my team.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was only in high school that we played together. And I think we still do that even outside of the field, every other way.
Well, this is my last twin question, I swear to God, and then we're gonna get into it. I'm assuming you're identical twins.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we still confuse people.
Well, that's exactly where I want to go. I mean, you could have so much fun with this.
Do you have like a best prank?
Yeah. Have you ever pulled a prank or
just in high school, like we purposely like tricked people in class. But then other than that, we don't purposely trick people anymore. Like I remember one day going to her campus and I was just walking by myself. She studied at Cornell in New York, and I was just visiting her. And I was just walking by myself. And then someone is like, "Hi." And I was like, "I don't know who this is."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "But my sister taught me." She's like, "If someone says hi to you, just say hi." Or like back, like, rather than "Who are you? I don't know you." And I follow that throughout my entire life. If someone says hi to me, like in a nice way, wants to start conversation and they're confusing me for her, I just play along. And then I'm like, "By the way, I'm not Jennifer, I'm Charlene." And then it ends with a laugh. I'm like, "Oh no, so sorry. Didn't know she had a twin."
And you both were together a lot through high school, all your lives. And then you decided to kind of split paths. Like you said, she went to Cornell. You went to USC. Why USC?
I loved USC like since I was in elementary school. I knew I wanted to go there since I was in elementary, and it's because of the love for college football. I'm a huge college football fan, and I just grew up watching the Trojans play, and I always knew I wanted to go there. And I did get into Cornell, but I unfortunately had to, forge my own path too. My sister and I were always called the Riofrio twins, always.
Frio.
And we still are. Riofrio.
My favorite. It's my favorite.
We still are called that, but we just had to establish our own identities because we were always together since we were born, and we just needed to establish our own sort of person. And she established her own path, and here we are.
What did you?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
What did you major in at USC?
I majored in broadcast journalism and international relations with the Spanish minor. And then I went back and got my master's in communication management.
Oh. Well, let's start first with your bachelor's degree. You had a lot of internships from news to the stock market to entertainment. You're one of the few guests that I've seen like where you really got yourself emerged early and went to a whole bunch of different areas, right? It wasn't all sports or anything like that. Why was that kind of like, was that a strategy? Did you want to just see what's out there?
Yeah, I initially obviously studied broadcast journalism. I thought I wanted to be a news reporter. I had my reel built since I was in high school, but then I got exposed to behind the scenes, to the production, and I loved it. And I just started networking with a lot of women that were top executive producers who became my mentors, specifically one who I still have a relationship with, and she's my mentor. And she was the one that gave me my first official job right out of college. And I worked on American Idol on the reality TV side.
That's so cool.
I stuck to that show for like 4 years, and I learned a lot of entertainment TV, but then I always knew sports is where I wanted to go. And then when I saw Tennis Channel opportunity, I ended up making that transition. And then I just stuck to sports right after that. Most of my career was at ESPN for 10 years. And then after that, I went to Tennis Channel again for a little under a year and then moved on to Fox. And I've been here for a little over 2 years.
So we're going to break down a lot of that path, but something you said really hit hard with me and Celeste, I know, and something we constantly preach to the students that we teach or the informational interviews that we grant. I just had one right before we got on, and that's being open-minded. So you thought you wanted to go down this path. You were ready in high school. And then when you get exposed to what else is out there, it really opens up your mind and the possibilities. How important is that message to send to anybody looking to either change their career or get into this industry to say, great, have an idea, but be open to what else might come your way.
My advice to them would be, like you mentioned, to be open-minded. And the best way to do that is to just try to get as many internships as you can. I did that since I was in high school. I had my first internship at CNN, and then I stuck to news stations all throughout college. And then I eventually got exposed to production, and that's where everything changed. So I would say if you know you want to stick to something, a specific industry, your strategy could be try to get internships or experience in different areas within that industry. And then you'll know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And then whatever your strength is, stick to that and grow in that area.
How much did USC help you with those internships? Because, I've been so impressed with USC because I've spoken a couple of times in some classes, and I just feel like the alumni there is so strong. They will help anybody and everybody get a job. I mean, I think they even have a policy. If you've graduated from school and you're out of work, you can go back and get help from the Career Center. So how helpful was it a professor that helped you? Was it the Career Center? How did you get those internships?
It was honestly like everything has always been who you know, and my approach has been like that because of the university and just because of naturally always being someone that likes to network. But yes, USC has always been a great resource. They have so many alumni and student associations that connect you with alumni that work in these industries who are always willing to give you even like a 15-minute informational through Zoom. And that's where everything starts. Like they'll know someone that works somewhere and they can connect you for an opportunity. And that's how it always worked for me. But at least obviously in high school, I didn't know anyone because I was just a high school student. And I got into a CNN internship because there was this opportunity back in the day that was called Yes to Jobs. I don't think it exists anymore, but the point of that program was to get minorities that are underrepresented into the entertainment industry, and it changed my life completely. And it taught me, to network. And USC ingrained that in me as well. And to this day, I continue to do that. Even though I love where I'm working, I think it's important to continue to network outside of your sphere. Otherwise, you're stuck in this bubble and you get comfortable.
Oh, preach, Charlene, preach. It's so important. Let's keep going on with that path because of your ability to speak Spanish. So my daughter's 16. Our last name is Gutierrez. I am married into that, right? But she has the benefit of having family around her that speaks Spanish, and she's going for her bilingual certification. And Paul and I are like, do it. You got to learn another language. It's so helpful. How impactful has your bilingual ability been in your career?
I believe it's helped me a lot. It's helped me be more competitive in terms of my other colleagues that possibly were trying to apply for the same job I was applying for. And my mom ingrained that in me since I was little. She would tell me, I don't speak English. I would speak to her in English, like, no, español, only in Spanish. And since then, I just stuck to it and even minored in it in college because I thought it was important not just to know how to speak, but also write. And I knew one day that I was going to want to work for a Spanish TV station. And I interned for them, like Univision. And that's where my journey took me at ESPN. I was able to go back and forth between English and Spanish. And I was able to move up that corporate ladder because of the Spanish. They needed someone to be a producer on Spanish TV shows at ESPN Deportes, and I left ESPN English to go to Deportes, and then I left Deportes and went back to English. And wow. I've just followed that strategy throughout my entire career, and it's helped me be successful. And I think it's very important. And I give kudos to you as a mom who's, giving that amazing advice to your daughter to take advantage of that because it's going to help her succeed her entire life.
I'm not that amazing. Our son didn't do it. So I figure 1 for 2, not so bad.
50%.
Learn.
But I mean, Paul,
learn later.
He has to take it now. So he's at UNLV and he has to take it. And we had the funniest conversation because I'm like, well, Listen, I'm guessing you're going to need to start over because you didn't really do too well in high school in Spanish. And because he didn't put the effort he should have into it, he didn't see the value. Gracie sees the value. And Paul, for all intents and purposes, like it's really interesting where we've come generationally regarding being bilingual. So, Paul's grandparents spoke Spanish, but his parents did not. And they were not encouraged to speak Spanish. And this is in the 60s and 70s, right? Really the 60s, born in the 50s, teenagers in the 60s. It was frowned upon. You did not speak Spanish if you were in an English classroom. And so his mom gets by, his dad's pretty good, pretty fluent. So Paul didn't grow up around it. And we're older than you. So it was really important to try and impress upon our children, even though Paul didn't speak it fluently, he spoke it enough that there is value in this. And as a sports reporter at ESPN, Paul has seen it come through, threefold, especially when he covered baseball, where you had so many Latino players and, they would tell him stuff in Spanish that they're not telling me in English. And you could get scoop and that goes across any industry. If you're able to communicate in another language, your doors open for you big time. So, but yeah, I'm 1 for 2, Charlene.
Well, cheers to your daughter.
Yay, mija. Go, mija.
You make a great point about like knowing the language. Like even as a producer, when I was interviewing a lot of soccer players or boxers, they would give me information that they weren't giving ESPN English, just because it's not just the language, it's also the culture. And if you're able to kind of understand one another, even through that sort of aspect, people feel more comfortable and are willing to share with you something they're not willing to share with someone else. So you made a great point about that.
100%. It opens doors. Yeah.
That's what I think is so fascinating about your journey, Charlene. Just can you describe the different culture at like Univision versus like ESPN? Like, how is that culture so different?
I think just even like in any sort of Spanish TV, like ESPN Deportes or Fox Deportes or just anywhere that's Spanish and you compare it to a mainstream network, I compare it as a family. I don't know what it is, but I think it's the culture. It's just family vibes. People don't just take work too seriously. Obviously they do, but then they make the opportunity to get to know one another, not to say that you don't do that in your regular sort of mainstream workspace, but that's just how my experience has been. And I think if you get to know one another beyond being a colleague, you're able to produce and create amazing content as a team, because you're not there just to work, you're there to get to know one another, build a relationship. So I think that has been an advantage for me working in that sort of environment.
That's why our podcast is so rad, Celeste, because we're friends too.
Exactly.
We met at work and then the relationship developed from there. Yeah.
I love it.
I know.
But it's just so important with that support. And that's, everything, I think, especially as women, you talked about that a lot, Charlene, about Fox. There's definitely women supporting women at that network, which is really exciting. But I want to still talk about what was like the difference between working at the Tennis Channel and ESPN, all the journey that you've had. Were there any favorites?
I loved both. And I would say they were both different in great ways. Like Tennis Channel, I focused on one sport. It was just tennis. And I think that was an advantage in itself because I didn't have to, not to say that it wasn't like, it was a challenge, but I would say it wasn't as difficult for me, because when I went to ESPN, I had to know everything about everything and not just nationally, but globally, all sports, stats, names, players, everything that was going on from an analysis point of view and in 2 different languages versus when I was just covering one sport, it wasn't as difficult. And I would say what I loved about Tennis Channel is I became an expert in that one sport. And then it pushed me like to want to know more about other sports. And that's what I'm so thankful about Tennis Channel, because I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for Tennis Channel, because that's where my journey in sports started. And I'm so thankful. And I went back to Tennis Channel, as you know, because I loved working there. I went there when the pandemic hit and I just loved it. So I came back.
Well, you do, like, if we did a Charlene Riofrio, I have to say it, timeline, right? American Idol to Fox Deportes. What are the different roles you had, the titles of the different roles you've had along the way, so people really get an idea of all the different kinds of things you've done? Because you've mentioned producing, you've mentioned partnerships, you've mentioned social media. So American Idol, what was your job?
I was a production assistant, and then as my journey progressed, I became a associate producer in reality TV, and I was moving up the ladder there, but then I decided, oh, I want to switch to sports. So I then was an associate producer still at Tennis Channel, but then I took a little bit of a step down when I went to ESPN. I became a production assistant, and then I grew into a content associate, then an associate producer, and then I moved on to Tennis Channel, where I moved into social media and became a social media manager, and then progressed on to Fox Deportes and became a senior manager for digital strategy and operations. So now I work very closely with my TV colleagues, but my main focus is digital and driving awareness to our TV through digital.
Okay.
How did you finally settle on social media?
What made me change my sort of approach with my career, I would say, was the pandemic. Right when the pandemic hit, I was producing a lot of content for TV from my home through Zoom. And I realized, this is where everything's going technically, is digital. So I should make my focus with digital. And since then, I stuck to that, and I continue to forge my way through the digital space.
She's doing this.
Yeah.
She's doing this through social.
I even got into NFTs and sports. That's another story. But yeah, I think it's all about being innovative. A lot of people aren't consuming content the way they were through cable or TV. People are now consuming it through TikTok or YouTube, streaming.
Short form device.
Short form. It's all about short form now. People's attention spans, even for games.
That's so hard for me. I have to be honest. Like, that is really hard as a journalist and like a long format storyteller, that we are shifting that way. I mean, it's very apparent. And so that's why Celeste and I wanted to start this, where this platform of a long format interview is actually trending as well. But one of the only places it's happening is on podcasts. Like, it's, so it's a little bit like, oh my God, don't you want to hear this person's story instead of just see highlights and see him crush a burger? But, but it trends, it went viral. I think a really important thing you've said several times and about your career, Charlene, is the fact that you've gone back to several companies. You've worked for several companies twice, and that lends to showing you, it goes back to what you said about saying hi to somebody you don't know, right? You're not a bridge burner. And that's a really hard thing to do in this industry, because there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of emotion involved. There's a lot of layoffs where we have, anger issues because of it. What has been your key to keeping those relationships, and what's your advice on that? Like, you never really know where you might go next.
For me, I think it's important not just to focus on your day-to-day job. I think it's all about building relationships, and the way I've been able to keep those relationships is by being involved in organizations with my colleagues. And I think that's what has helped me go back to those companies, because it's been beyond work. For example, at Fox Deportes, Fox Sports, I'm involved in an organization that's called Women of Fox Sports, and we do projects that are beyond our job to benefit students that want to one day work in sports. And then at ESPN, I was involved in an organization where we would each donate professional clothing that would benefit women who want to, apply for a job to support their family. And then a tennis channel, it was all about even dedicating some time to socialize outside of work. And I think that's what has helped me stay in touch with everyone and not burn bridges, because I haven't been that sort of person that just checks in for work and then checks out. It's been about building relationships.
Yeah, you're invested. That's clear.
When I was talking to Amy about you, when we were talking about you being booked as a guest, and that's one thing I told her. I said, every time I turn around on social, I see you with your sister doing something, whether that's Reardon. I think you were just a judge recently or something like that.
Yes, it was yesterday. Yesterday was today. Oh, it was on Saturday. Yes. We've been involved in the program at UCLA since we were 17. We participated in the stock market competition. We learned from business professors, and it helped shape who I am today. And it taught me to present, to sell an idea, even if it's not stocks, it's a creative idea.
Yeah. And just seeing you in the community.
Yeah. And it might turn into stock, right? Like it's going to affect the stock price of Fox. So what you do. So it all relates at some point. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think it's important to give back. Like a lot of people have been mentors to me since forever. And now I think it's my responsibility to help anyone and everyone that wants to get in this industry, even if it's just having a 15-minute conversation or helping them in any way that I can, maybe with an application to university or forwarding their resume to an internship. I think it's just my responsibility to do that because everyone helped me before.
And that's what you see all over your social is you are building those networks. But what I love too that you're doing is you're building community for other people that are trying to get in through the door, and especially Latinas, right? Like you're really building that community, showing that that door is open. We've talked a lot about there has been so many doors open for minorities, especially in the entertainment industry during the pandemic, where they've done studies now to show that there's a lot more people in the entry-level position and middle management. But kind of like what we talked about with you earlier, it's career tracking them up into being that voice of the company, more of those executive roles in the C-suite. How can we help move the needle more with that?
I think we just need more women that are in those roles so that people, when they look left and right, know that we belong here. And, when I worked at a different company, I was the only one that was a female. It didn't matter if I was Hispanic or I was just female and I was the only one. So I think we just need more of us to help all women, regardless of our ethnic background, so that more of us can help women represent in those meetings, because I go to a lot of these meetings and it's still just me with a bunch of guys. And I think it's just, that's where it comes back to like being involved in organizations, even like your podcast, led by fabulous women, where we're making changes, we're helping women, represent regardless of their background.
Well, and I think, what we hope with this podcast is that it begins these conversations, right? Where we have witnessed it for a long time, you being the only female in this room, or me being the only female in a clubhouse, or Celeste being the only female traveling to cover the Super Bowl, whatever it is. And we're grateful for those spots, but that doesn't mean that we can't push to see more representation and talk about the inequities that we continue to see today. What do you feel? And Celeste and I have always praised the men that we've worked with that deserve it, right? But we've had great male mentors. When you're the only female still often, Charlene, in the room, what are the challenges that you face in that situation?
I feel like throughout my career, I've become very thick-skinned just working with a lot of men. And throughout my journey, as when I was, maybe a production assistant, I may have been intimidated, but I've learned from that. And then as I've grown, I've learned to feel comfortable with that and learn to be outspoken. So I didn't really have those challenges where I felt like, oh, the guys are going to be the only ones that are going to say anything in this meeting or pitch ideas for the day of what we wanted to see on Sports Center. I made sure I came prepared, but I did have to work maybe 3 times as hard as them because I wanted to make sure that my voice was heard and that whatever I said made sense. Because men are the ones that are generally taken more seriously, I would say, when it comes to sports. But I knew my sports, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure I was over prepared. So I would say that was a challenge that I've learned to master throughout the rest of my career. And now working at Fox, I feel so comfortable here because we have so many amazing men that are allies that support us. And I feel like they're here to listen to us and want our voice in the whole process and decision-making process. It's not just them calling the shots. It's also us. And I think it's been amazing so far for me. I have no complaints.
And who are some of those men at Fox?
Yeah.
I would say my own supervisor. His name is Jose, and he's a huge ally. He's the one who's always even like pushing me, like, Charlene, did you see this opportunity with Harvard that Fox is sponsoring? You should take this. Like, it's going to help your leadership skills, your communication skills. And if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have started that course, which I started last year. And now I'm on my 2nd course. And it's because of mentors like that are not even women, that are men, that are there looking out for you. And I think that's important. When I look for a job, it's working for people like that come with a team approach.
I mean, that's the best thing you could ever ask for, is a supervisor that wants to make you better. That's what it's all about. We always talk about education on this podcast, Charlene, and kind of like, what you studied and where you went to school and how long you went to school. And did you need to go to school for that long? And I always joke like, yeah, I went to Davis and got a degree, but I don't know if I needed it to do what I do or did. And so you have an interesting story because you actually had quite a large span of time between getting your undergrad and then getting a master's. So what was the impetus to going back to school? What did you study? And how did it impact your career?
Yes, I waited. How long did I wait? 2006, like 13 years before I went back. I think what caused me to do that, like the change in my life, was I was at ESPN for so long. I was there for 10 years, but I wasn't growing as quickly as I wanted to. And I just kept talking to a lot of female colleagues that were in higher positions. And I spoke with one of them and she's like, Charlene, have you ever thought of going back to school? ESPN Disney pays for you to go. And I was like, wow, I didn't really consider this. I'm like, is it even possible? Like, we work these crazy hours. Is our company, our manager, going to support this? So that was what changed everything, just seeing a female colleague doing it. And she was studying at USC too. And it changed my whole professional career. I then, got promoted when I went to Tennis Channel. And then when I left Tennis Channel, I got promoted again. So I feel like it's helped me getting a master's. It has helped me. To answer your question about, sorry, it was another question.
Well, I asked what was your emphasis? What was the master's?
Oh, it was communication management.
Okay.
So it was more on the business side of TV and digital marketing, business operations. And it has helped me a lot because before it was like, I just want to produce content for TV, or I just want to produce content for social media. Now it's like there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't even really consider when they're in college. They're like, oh, wow, I can do that. Like right now I like pull data from a system and I'm analyzing performance on TikTok compared to YouTube. And that just makes decisions for everything creative. We should produce more of this because it's not doing as well here. So if you're able, at least something I've learned is if you understand numbers, it's going to change your career completely. And when I was in college, I didn't study anything that had to do with numbers. It was all
Me either.
It was all storytelling. And I was like, when am I going to have to learn statistics? And I learned that in my master's program. And I asked the same question again, when am I going to have to use this? And now
you know
it every day. And in sports, everything that you see are numbers, the stats, the team performance, player performance. If you understand that, it's going to help you a lot in your career. And it's all thanks to the masters that I got.
Do you think Charlene could analyze our podcast numbers for us, Celeste, since none of us seem to understand what we're looking for?
That's what I was thinking.
Sure. If you need any help, we do have podcasts with Fox Deportes, and I analyze it through a specific tool that's called Megaphone. So just throwing that out there.
We'll take it.
Yes. We analyze downloads, unique visitors. So there's so many metrics out there that I didn't know existed, but there's a ton.
We don't know either.
We'll talk after this.
Yes. We're good. We'll follow up on that. Yeah.
Charlene, you said you've had such an amazing career. You've done so much. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of? I feel like what I'm most proud of is just sticking to what I wanted a lot throughout my entire career, even in college. And I won't say like who or what or when, but like I've gotten so many people that told me like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Because you have these areas that you're not as great at, like compared to others. And I got it my entire life when I was even in college. And I did not let that dissuade me from what I wanted. Like I always wanted to work in TV. And I think that was something that I'm most proud of, just sticking to TV and digital and not letting anyone change my mind.
Perseverance.
Love that.
It's huge. You got to have it in this industry for sure. All right. Last question for you. Then we're going to let you get back to work and looking at those numbers, and we're going to follow up and talk to you about our podcast. For those listening, Charlene, just your best piece of advice about working in sports or life in general, a piece of advice that you live by.
Don't say no to an opportunity, even if it's something you might think, oh, I don't know about this. Like if someone invites you to do something, say yes. You never know who you might meet that might help you do what you actually want to do, or you might learn something you never thought of. So any opportunity that comes your way, say yes, and everything will change.
Love that. Say yes, everyone. Yes.
Muy bien.
Yes.
Muy bien. Yes.
Thanks, Charlene.
Gosh. Yeah, Charlene, you're just a little inspiration there. Yeah, I love it. Thank you for joining us and taking the time to do this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate all of you for doing this, for making this part of your day-to-day aside from your regular sort of job. So kudos to all of you.
Oh, thank you. You can go ahead and you can hop off and get back to those analytics and social trends.
Thank you. But honestly, like next time you are in LA, I would love to meet up with you all for coffee or for dinner. Please let me know and I'll make myself available.
So this is funny though. This is like actually our first real invitation. So we fall in love with everybody that we have on the show. And then we basically invite ourselves to go visit them. And you're the first to actually invite us, really invite us.
Yeah. If you want to have lunch or coffee at the Fox studio lot, let me know. Happy to.
Oh, we used to do that. I remember that.
Yeah. Moe's.
Yep.
So Lex, you used to work at Fox for a long time.
We worked there. That's where we met.
Yeah. That's how Amy and I met.
That's where we met. 22 years ago. 23 years ago.
Okay, then we have to have a reunion at the lot.
Okay.
Okay. Let me know. I'm there generally 2 days out of the week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I can make myself available any other day.
Oh, thanks, Charlene.
You're the best. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. You've been listening to Girl, How'd You Get That Gig with hosts Amy G and Celeste Gehring. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and follow us on Instagram. The handle is @GirlGigPodcast. Followers and subscribers are automatically entered to win our giveaway prizes, announced every other Wednesday on our Instagram page. Until our next episode, go get that gig.